May the force be with you. Welcome to Star Wars Month here in the Crossing King Garage, like no other place that you will see a Star Wars Month ever.
He's Randy and I'm Kristen, and today we are doing Versus. This was actually first introduced in last year's Star Wars Month, and honestly, I love this little series that we've made.
Versus that takes one iconic thing and pairs it up against another iconic thing, where we have a brief conversation about how which one was actually a little bit better than the other. I'm Randy. This is Crossing Kin.
Today we are pitting a couple of Star Wars section movies together. We are pitting the prequel trilogy versus the spin-offs, which is Rogue One and Solo, a Star Wars story.
Versus episode 1, 2, and 3.
So the way this works, we have 5 categories here. We've got original characters, the story, acting/dialogue, special effects, and the impact. Now, I do want to make something clear with the character section, which is our first section. So let's just roll right on into it while we're here. With this character section, if they did not originate in this franchise, in this section of the series, they do not count. Therefore, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin, R2-D2, C-3PO, and the Emperor do not count as original characters to the prequel series.
Okay, fair enough.
In that same vein, Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, and Chewbacca do not count as original characters to the spin-off series.
Okay.
So it is fair. It is fair. They're all losing their most iconic characters, but it's fair. So let's chat.
What do we have left if you take those characters out?
In Rogue One, we have the entire cast.
Fair.
Except for Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
With Rogue One, we have the entire cast. We have Woody Harrelson's bad guy. We have Paul Bettany's bad guy.
Bad guy.
We have Kira. We have the droid. We have Lando's droid. Lando's droid's hilarious. Played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who was in the most recent Indiana Jones movie. Right. And then in the prequels, we have Qui-Gon. We have Mace Windu. We have Padme. We have excuse me. We have Darth Maul because he originated in the prequels. So let's chat. Who's got the better roster?
Better overall roster?
Yeah, like it's hard because the prequels do have decent characters. I just don't feel they're always used the best because, as we've spoken of before, Darth Maul gets shafted.
Darth Maul is probably the most underused character in all of Star Wars universe.
And while Count Dooku's great, Darth Maul would have been a better overall villain.
Maul gets his fleshing out in Clone Wars.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
You know, that's not a topic of this discussion.
That's neither here nor there.
It is one of those things where if you just go off characters, the prequel films versus the spin-offs, I'd have to give it to the spin-offs.
I agree, just because the Rogue One cast was so good. Again, I think we spoke about this before when we were ranking the movies. I was invested within the first 15 minutes in all of the characters.
In both of those films, and both the spin-off films.
But I agree, just because I feel like, and this is something we'll discuss in a little bit better, the prequel, or the spin-off cast rather, they had better material to work with.
Yeah,
and
you
we'll
tell.
Discuss that a little bit further down in the story bit, okay. But I think the
spin-offs win this one.
All right. So on to the next, the story. Now, I will admit, while some parts of the prequel series, as far as our next category after the story, is rough, this actual story makes complete sense and is really, 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 really good. Especially number 3.
I would have to agree with you. I think they do a better job of paying homage to 4, 5, and 6, and they do a good job. Whereas the spin-off movies,
Rogue One is excellent, but Solo falters in places.
In places, it really does, and it you know, it tells the life of a titular character. However, it doesn't really propel any of the storyline.
No.
It doesn't fill any of the gap, which is one of those things that I'm looking for.
Doesn't even put him into his place for number 4. Like,
yeah.
Something with the prequels, a lot of what number 3 does is it puts the chess pieces where they need to go for the next match in number 4, whereas Han is maybe about to go and do the thing that made Jabba mad at him.
Yeah. I think the prequels, just because of them being the
prequel. The starting point?
Yeah, the starting point for the story, for the Skywalker saga.
Mm-hmm.
I think it being the backstory and it really kind of giving us an idea of. It never explains why Luke is a crybaby, but it does explain.
Yes, it does. He's an orphan.
Well, no, he wasn't a crybaby in the books. Some of that's just Mark Hamill.
Stop it!
But
Be
anyway,
nice.
I'm sorry. If you're a Mark Hamill fan, Corvette Summer, baby. That's all I can tell you.
All right, moving on to our third category, acting/dialogue. Okay. First, yes, we all know that the prequels have terrible dialogue, and a lot of the times the acting is very, very, very stilted. However, Ewan McGregor, Samuel L. Jackson, they are probably the two redeeming factors in the prequels. But
I would say Liam Neeson.
Yeah, but Liam's a little bit like Darth Maul.
Exactly.
Qui-Gon is so short-lived that we don't. And then also Count Dooku, Mr. Sir Christopher Lee.
Oh,
we cannot deny you and your little curved lightsaber, which I think he designed.
Christopher. We could just do an entire episode on Christopher Lee,
and we should. That needs to be our next actor deep dive.
We need to do that at Halloween, though.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So anyway, but between the spinoffs and the prequels, I would say that probably the screenplays in the spinoffs are much better. Than
the dialogue, the script, oh my gosh. And then also the acting. Again, part of it is that they had more to work with.
And again,
despite having fewer movies, Rogue One.
Yes. I think the spinoffs win this. Just because the writing is better, the acting is better, at no fault necessarily to the actors of the prequels, because they did with what they were given. It is one of those things that, yes, it was iconic. Yes, the episode 1, 2, and 3 did what they needed to do, but they didn't do them well.
And I think Rogue One and Solo, at the very least, their actors and their dialogue with the actors was so much better. Because again, Liam Neeson, Samuel L. Jackson, Natalie Portman, everybody in the prequels, they're good actors. We know this. But in at least episode 1, everybody seems very much like a block of wood.
Except for Natalie Portman. But anyway, it's one of those. It's our show. It's one of those deals where episodes takes this one.
Yeah, spinoffs takes this one.
Spinoffs. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
spinoffs take this.
All right. Up next, we have the special effects. Now, this is actually one that's hard because both films have both sections have very good special effects, and I'm also talking practical effects. One of my things is the Battle of Mustafar with Anakin and Obi-Wan. That final lightsaber.
That's immediately what my mind went to.
That final lightsaber duel is astounding. And let's be honest, they also had several fully CGI characters. And while Jar Jar Binks is not my favorite character, you cannot deny that he was well rendered.
Jar Jar Binks is a Sith.
Yes, we kind of subscribe to the Sith Jar Jar fan theory. If you do, please let us know down in the comment section below and fully unpack that for those of us who don't know what we're talking about.
You notice Jar Jar Binks has not shown back up in any iteration of anything Star Wars.
Not since episode 3. Not since episode 3. Maybe he's the new form of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
That was my next thing. Maybe he should have shown up in that one show. Acolyte. Yeah. That would have been hilarious. Jar Jar Binks?
Misa like this. Anyway, back on point. That's and then Darth Maul's practical makeup. Duel of the Fates is also an amazing special effects.
I can't help but just think that the budgets they were provided regardless of the scripts, the incredible Lucasfilm and Skywalker Ranch technicians blew away the two spin-off movies.
However,
there weren't.
So here's the thing. Solo has not so great special effects. We've talked about this when we were ranking it. The visual effects are not great because it's so dark you can't even see them.
Right.
I still don't have any idea what that worm lady voiced by Linda Hunt. I have no idea what she looks like because it's so stinking dark.
Well, and I mean, but cinematography is a different qualification.
As perfect as Rogue One's special effects and practical effects and all the visual effects that Rogue One has, like the destruction of that planet. I can't remember what the planet is called. And as well as K2SO. How great he looks. I still think that this prequels, just because of the lightsaber duels alone.
I agree. I think the prequels get this one.
All right. Why does we always come down to a 2-2 tie when we come to the Impact?
I do not know.
We don't plan this, just so y'all know.
Well, I think Impact overall on this will be on this particular versus is going to be all about the critics.
Well, I will say this. Impact also means spin-offs. And without the prequels, we wouldn't have Clone Wars. We wouldn't have Rebels. We wouldn't have Bad Batch because the Camino appears in episode 2.
This one is, what's the category?
Impact.
I just think for sheer volume, Kristen, that the movies have the advantage here.
The spin-offs?
No. The prequels.
The prequels.
Yeah, the prequels. Just because there's been 3 of them and there's only been 2 spin-off movies.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Argument could be made about television shows, I guess. But
here's the thing. If you're only talking critics as far as Impact as well as fan love, then the spin-offs got it. Because here's the thing. The spin-offs don't have about 5 different rewrites on YouTube. There are about 20 or more. I could link a couple of my favorite what if I wrote the Star Wars prequels. I'm not rewriting the prequels, by the way. I already did that with the sequels. That was a lot. So no, I'm not doing that again. But anyway, there are so many rewrites of how I would have done this. And they basically take the same characters and just move them around in different ways. A lot of times we age Anakin up a little bit in the first one. Blah, 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 blah,
definitely need to age up Anakin in the first one.
And sometimes Qui-Gon survives. Sometimes Obi-Wan's the one that turns to the dark side briefly. This, that, the other thing. It's all very messy. But neither of the spin-off movies have that. Nobody. It sounds bad. Nobody cares enough about Solo.
But I don't know.
Rewrite it. And everybody loves
your argument.
Everybody loves Rogue One so much, and then Andor, which I think Andor got Emmy nominations.
Well, I think you're making my point actually
because nobody cares about Solo.
Because nobody cares about Solo, and I think there's so much impact, even if it's a negative impact. Is an impact, and because there is so much vitriol surrounding the first 3 episodes in what you see, and there's not as much.
And then we also do have Obi-Wan as technically a spin-off of the prequels as well.
Well, yeah, but it was a television show, so we really can't count.
We're trying not to talk about the television show
trying
as far
to stay away
as
from those.
Impact. But they are an impact. You can't deny that.
I still think the episodes get this.
You think the prequels get it?
I think if for no other reason than the negative impact.
I mean, I agree, but I'm coming at it from. Without it, we wouldn't have some of my favorite TV shows.
Oh, I agree.
Without the prequels, without Obi-Wan's little weird detective cluing all over Camino, we would not have my favorite character. We wouldn't have your favorite character either.
Right.
It would not exist without the prequels. Without the prequels. Which would be so sad.
Okay.
Imagine a world where Hondo didn't exist.
I don't want to even think about that.
That's so sad. I just got so sad. Okay, you ready for a shock?
That makes my heart sad.
The Hondo, a world where Hondo wouldn't exist. Imagine a world without Captain Rex. It's even sadder.
Okay.
Everybody's dead. Anyway, you ready for a shock? The prequels 1.
This kind of does shock me.
3 to 2.
But if you talk about the categories that we have discussed,
original characters, story, acting and dialogue, special effects, and the impact.
It just overall, it lends itself towards the prequels. Again, just for the sheer volume of one versus the other.
Yeah.
Now, if they were to come out and bring along, if they had done Obi-Wan as a movie,
which they
instead,
were intending to do, because fans decided to boycott Solo because they were mad about something. I don't even remember what they were mad about.
I don't either.
They were mad about something, so they decided to boycott Solo, and that cost us Obi-Wan as a movie, which in turn I think kind of hurt Obi-Wan the show, because it was a movie script stretched out over 6 episodes.
Yeah, it never should have gotten to that point. And the screenwriting would have been probably better as a major motion picture, excuse me, as opposed to a television show. And I mean, that's one of the short sheet versions of this. Now, had we had an Obi-Wan movie, this would have been a whole different.
This would have been a whole different ball game. I will say, the spin-off movies put up an amazing fight. They won the original characters as well as the acting and dialogue. And I mean, duh.
I mean, let me clarify. I love the spin-off movies more than I like the prequels.
I mean, Rogue One is number 3 on our Star Wars movie ranking, right. I believe, that we did last year.
Yeah, and I mean, according to these categories, just according to these categories, in our verses here at Crossing Kin, the prequels take the cake.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Did we get it wrong? Were some of our points a little bit off? I still think I agree with you, Daddy. Like, this isn't a you versus me.
Absolutely.
This is pitting them against
each other. We knew that coming into this particular episode.
Yeah, we knew this was going to kind of be a weird one because, again, we like the prequel or the spin-offs. We like the spin-offs better than the prequels. But looking at the categories, breaking it down, again, the visual lightsaber fights alone, and again, the destruction of Jeddah. That's what it's called.
Yep.
The destruction of Jeddah is astounding, but it doesn't beat Duel of the Fates or the final fight on Mustafar.
Right, and there's something to be said. I want to say that Solo and Rogue One both had such a short window at the box office that they were not fairly treated, whereas the prequels were just a marketing blitz.
That's fair.
Believe it or not, today,
I'm as shocked as you are.
These categories, the prequels took the day. No, absolutely not. Those are our standard categories for verses, and it is a fair analysis, I think. Surprisingly so, because our love for the spin-off movies is so far and above the prequels. We like the prequels, don't get me wrong. We're just not extreme haters of the prequels like we are the sequels. But, the spin-off movies, I think they're a far better product as a movie-going aficionados that we are. They're a much better product.
I agree. All right, that is it for this episode of Star Wars Month. Tune in next week for our next one. Again, we do a video every single week here at Crossing Kin for Star Wars Month only.
That's right.
Be sure you tune in and be sure you look at the playlist. I should have it linked above my head. It should be linked here in the end card. Check out the rest of our Star Wars Months only at Crossing Kin.
You can find these in their own category on the Crossing Kin YouTube page.
Just go to playlists, look for Crossing Kin. I've got them look for Star Wars Month. I've got them all dated.
And as always, from Crossing Kin, I'm Randy.
I'm Kristen. Be sure you like, share, and
ring that subscription bell
so that you're notified every time we upload.
May the Force be with you.